The NBA is a game of giants and has always favored bigger players, and so it should come as no surprise that most of the greatest players are freaks of nature, born to play the game. But every now and then, a new player pops up who manages to defy all odds despite their size and height. Today we'll be taking a deep dive into a man who once rocked the NBA world as a superstar, yet is now a free agent. A man who displayed incredible talent while standing at a mere 5'9", showing the world what it meant to have heart over height. We are talking about none other than Isaiah Jamar Thomas. What happened to Isaiah Thomas, and can he still return to the league? Let's take a look at his journey to the NBA and how he managed to win the heart of millions. This incredible story starts off with a bet made by his father, James Thomas, who is a lifelong Lakers fan. James placed a bet during the 1989 NBA Finals that his beloved Lakers would beat the Pistons. The stakes? The name of his first son. This meant that if the Lakers lost, he would name his son after the leader of the Bad Boys himself, Isaiah Thomas. As history goes, the Pistons would go on to sweep the Lakers that year, but James had already warmed up to the name Isaiah. He went ahead with the name and decided to change the spelling to match the biblical version. Little did he know that his son would grow up to follow in the footsteps of the legendary player he named his son after, a story that seems almost too good to be true. Think about it. His dad stood at a height of 5'6", while his grandfather was also the same height. Isaiah followed right in their footsteps, and despite being undersized throughout his whole childhood, he had a passion for basketball that ignited a journey unlike any other. As a kid in 4th grade, his competitive spirit was so fierce that he got in trouble because he refused to come inside after recess, stating that he could only improve his game against the older 6th graders. As a teenager in middle school, Isaiah traveled with his father all over Tacoma to play against grown men. The crazy part is, he would beat those guys. These same adults would then want to fight him. Despite being great at a young age, Isaiah had his fair share of dark times as he truly believed that he would not make it to the NBA if he wasn't 6 foot tall. Thomas would often cry after doctor's visits when they told him that he would never grow to be 6 foot tall. He was so desperate to grow taller that he used to hang from a chin-up bar at home because he believed that it would stretch his body out and let him grow a few extra inches. Of course, this didn't work, and despite his genetic makeup, IT had to work with the cards he was dealt, and that is exactly what he did. Standing at 5'8" and 170 pounds, Thomas attended Curtis Senior High School, where he averaged a ridiculous 31.2 points per game as a junior. Despite this, he never truly got the ratings he deserved. In fact, recruiters ranked him as a mere 3 or 4-star recruit simply because of his height. And boy, do we know today how badly Thomas had proved all of them wrong. It was in college, where he played for the Washington Huskies, that it was visible to all that Thomas definitely had the talent to succeed on a professional level. Selected as a 3-time All-Conference player in the Pac-10, IT proved to haters that he could become the greatest player under 6 foot to ever play. When he decided to forego the last year of college, Thomas was selected by the Sacramento Kings with the final pick of the 2011 draft. Almost as if fate was telling the young point guard of the difficulties ahead of his journey. In his rookie year alone, Isaiah would show off his incredible will and talent when he was named the Western Conference NBA Rookie of the Month twice. Thomas proved to everyone that he belonged in the league, as no player in NBA history has ever been named Rookie of the Month while being the 60th pick in the NBA draft. IT continued to play well as a young guard in the league, but it wasn't until his trade to the Boston Celtics in 2015 that we would see the real Isaiah Thomas emerge. At his peak in the 2016 and 2017 seasons, Isaiah would remind us of another fearless point guard who did not care about their size, the legendary Allen Iverson. Like Iverson, it didn't matter how tall or how strong his opponents were, and this was exactly the type of leader that Boston desperately needed at that time. In Boston, Thomas averaged an impressive 24.7 points while shooting a solid 44.3% from the field. Staying true to his personality, Isaiah would not be afraid of any contact in the paint and attacked the inside, where he averaged a ridiculous 57.4% at the rim. If people thought IT would be done after the 2015 season, then they were sorely mistaken. Over the first 21 games of the 2016-17 season, Isaiah scored 20-plus points in almost all of his games except one. In December, Thomas scored a career high of 44 points, including a blistering 36 points by halftime. Isaiah wasn't just good, he was historically amazing during this season. He proved just how good he was when he matched Larry Bird's franchise record of 24 points in a quarter, all while holding the 4th highest scoring total in Celtics history when he scored 52 points in late December. This hot streak continued as Thomas averaged 32.9 points per game throughout January, giving him the third highest scoring average for a particular month in Celtic history, right after Larry Bird and Paul Pierce, two certified legends of the game. His amazing performance in the 2017 season ensured that the Celtics became the first seed in the Eastern Conference. This propelled Isaiah into the MVP discussion, where he finished in 5th place for that year's voting. Day in and day out, he proved to everyone on the court that he was no joke. During these 2 seasons, Thomas became the lowest draft pick ever to be named to the All-Star team since the current format's conception in 1989. Not only that, he tied with Hall of Famer Calvin Murphy as the shortest player to ever play in the All-Star game. Thomas continued to awe fans and haters alike, showing that an undersized point guard could take a team deep into the playoffs, where he led the Celtics all the way to the conference finals. In the playoffs, Isaiah continued his hot streak and defeated the Washington Wizards in a grueling 7-game series. During the conference semifinals against the Washington Wizards, Thomas showed the world a side to him we never could have imagined. Right before the series began, Thomas was notified by the authorities that his younger sister, China Thomas, had passed away in a car accident. Fans saw an emotionally distressed Isaiah being comforted by his teammates, and at that moment, many analysts wrote off the young Celtics team led by Isaiah as being too emotionally immature to be able to overcome that loss and respond with force. However, what many analysts underestimated was the tenacity of the young Celtics squad led by Isaiah, who had in fact given them the will and resilience to continue playing hard. Isaiah had some of the most incredible playoff performances that we had ever seen. In Game 2 against the Wizards, Thomas scored an astonishing 53 points, which became the second highest scoring total in Celtics playoffs history. Later on, in the closing game of the series, Isaiah scored 29 points while dishing out 12 assists to eliminate the Wizards. This led them to a conference final series against the Cleveland Cavaliers. But as the story goes, all good things must come to an end. Isaiah's fairy tale season concluded with the Celtics squad being eliminated by the deadly duo of Kyrie Irving and LeBron James. Riddled with a major hip injury in that series, Isaiah Thomas's time in Boston shortly came to an end, where he eventually got traded to Cleveland in exchange for Kyrie Irving. This trade was a testament to Isaiah's skill and talent as a basketball player. Sure, players like Jay Crowder were included in that deal, but let's be honest. The only reason the Cleveland Cavaliers agreed to the deal was because of the potential Thomas had. It wasn't a weird thing to say back then that Kyrie and Isaiah were equals on the court. Many analysts actually compared the two and thought that what they brought to a team was remarkably similar. Hindsight is 20/20, and so we can be sure that this wasn't the case at all. While Isaiah is a good player, Kyrie is a generational talent, the likes of which we have rarely ever seen in the NBA. The only reason Thomas's points and assist averages come close to Kyrie's is simply because the Celtics utilized Isaiah as the main floor general. As the Celtics president, Danny Ainge has always been called one of the best deal makers in the NBA, and the Cavaliers were surely fooled. Either way, Thomas appeared to be a different player. Gone was the explosive first step that allowed him to exploit defenses and get a shot off. Instead, we saw a much slower and timid Isaiah Thomas that preferred shooting the mid-range and the 3-ball rather than attacking the rim. This was visible from the stats, as Thomas's point production as the pick-and-roll ball handler had fallen from 1.04 points per possession to 0.97 points in 2017 to 2018. His ISO scoring also dipped from 1.12 points per possession to 0.65, while his spot-up shooting dropped from 1.22 in his prime to a mere 0.85 points per possession the year after. His fit on the Cleveland Cavaliers was downright horrendous, and for a player so used to handling the ball, sharing the spotlight with others seemed to be something Isaiah struggled with. Then, there was his locker room issues. He constantly clashed with Kevin Love on the Cavs, considering himself to be the second best player on the team right behind LeBron even when he was injured. These issues persisted even when he was traded to the Lakers, where he often clashed with Luke Walton over the minutes he was being given. Wherever Isaiah went, whether that was with the Nuggets, Wizards, and even the Pelicans, it just didn't seem to be a good fit. However, we never got to see the same player that once rocked the NBA world and proved how it wasn't about the size of the dog in the fight, but about the size of the fight in the dog. Can Isaiah still be a player that can be helpful for a playoff team? We think he can. He's proven himself to be a valuable player and showed just how good he can be after his godly performance during Jamal Crawford's Pro A&M circuit, where he finished 81 points, matching Kobe Bryant's NBA career high. This put social media in an uproar, where many fans hoped that Thomas would be able to return to the league. It was mentioned that Brad Stevens does feel a certain loyalty to Isaiah Thomas for what he did for the team in 2017. Playing hurt, pushing them into the conference finals, there's definitely an attachment there. The problem is that we've got a pretty good look at what Isaiah is as a basketball player right now. He's just not close to the player that he was during his best years in Boston. As much as some people would like to write him off, he is still playing great and has recently joined Team USA's roster for the FIBA AmeriCup qualifiers. His recent game against Cuba during the tournament opener on November 28th showed that Thomas can still ball out, where he scored 21 points, including a game-sealing three-pointer with 13.3 seconds left. If IT is able to focus on becoming a solid role player who can provide value to team's offense while also playing a veteran leadership role in the locker room, only then does he have a chance in the NBA. Regardless of how things end up, Isaiah Thomas has already proven his worth and remains as one of the best players the NBA has ever seen.